Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyBaking.com. Today we're going to make oatmeal cream cookies, and this is what they look like. This is a sandwich cookie, and what we're going to do is take two soft and chewy oatmeal cookies. We're going to sandwich them together with the vanilla cream filling. So the first thing we need to do is to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need 2 baking sheets. Now I've lined mine with parchment paper, but you could just lightly butter them or even spray them with one of those non-stick sprays. So for the oatmeal cookies, if you have an electric stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment, or you could use a hand mixer, or really you could just mix this in a bowl with a wooden spoon. The first thing you will need is 3/4 of a cup, which is 170 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter here. Have it at room temperature. And then I'm just going to beat it on medium speed just until it gets nice and smooth. Okay. And as always, scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl as much as you need to make sure everything is mixed together. So now we are going to add 1/2 cup, which is 100 grams of firmly packed light brown sugar, and then 1/2 cup, 100 grams of granulated white sugar. And then I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract. That's for flavoring. And now I'm going to beat this just on medium speed. We want to just mix everything together. You don't want to mix too much air into this batter, because then you may have the problem of your cookies spreading too much when they're baked. So just keep it on medium speed. Okay. So we just got everything all mixed together. So next we're going to add 1 large egg. And a large egg would be about 55 grams in the shell, if you want to weigh your eggs. And have your egg at room temperature. And then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon, which is about 20 grams, of molasses. I'm using the unsulfured molasses. Now it's not a lot, so it adds a little bit of flavor, but what it also does is helps to keep our oatmeal cookies nice and soft and moist. Now, some people cannot find molasses, then just use honey, a tablespoon of honey. So I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, that looks good. Quick scrape there. And now, in a separate bowl, I have 1 cup, which is 130 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And to that, I am going to add 1/2 teaspoon, which is 2 grams of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon, that's 1 gram of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I always like to put a little bit of cinnamon in my oatmeal cookies. If you prefer, you don't want that, you could just leave out that cinnamon. And I'm just going to whisk. You could just stir it all together, or you could even sift all your dry ingredients together. Just want to make sure everything, that baking soda and baking powder and salt are really mixed in. So I'm just going to add that. Along with oatmeal cookies, we need rolled oats. So there's 2 types of rolled oats. There's the old-fashioned, and then there's the instant or quick cooking. My personal preference here is to use the old-fashioned. That's because their texture is thicker. And I find that gives you a little more chewy cookie, soft chewy. Of course, if you only have in the house quick cookie, then you could use those. So you will need 2 cups of rolled oats, which is about 180 grams. So if you want, now some people like raisins or chopped nuts in their oatmeal cookies. In my house, we don't like that, so I'm not going to add it. But you could add like 1/2 cup, 120 milliliters of, dark raisins or golden raisins, or even some chopped nuts. And you could just add them at this point. So I'm just going to beat this in. Okay, that looks good. Now we are going to bake off our cookies right away. Now if you found your batter a little soft, you could cover and put it in the refrigerator to chill for a couple hours. Or if you didn't want to bake all of your cookies off today, this batter will hold in the fridge for a couple days. So it's not like you have to do it right now. Unless you have kids in the house and they want them right now. So, to form our cookies, we're going to use you can make your cookies whatever size you want. I like about just over a tablespoon of batter per cookie, and so I just happen to have an ice cream scoop that's that size. But you could just use 2 spoons. The reason I like an ice cream scoop is because every cookie is the same size, same shape. So baking time, I don't have to worry about some being done before the other. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to space them, I'm going to do 3 across and 4 rows down, so I'll get 12 cookies on this sheet. Okay, so that's... Now, as you can see, if you use an ice cream scoop, you have a little bit of a mound there. So what I like to do is just take my fingers. If you like, you can moisten them just a little and press them so they're more flat. So now, if you've ever made oatmeal cookies, you know that your baking time will determine the texture of your cookies. You like them soft and chewy, you bake them a little less than if you like them quite firm and crunchy. For this sandwich cookie, I like them a little soft. So for this size, I'm 11, 12 minutes. What I'm looking for is they will spread out. The outsides of the cookies will be firm to the touch, but the centers, what you're looking for is they're still a little soft. They will firm up when they come out of the oven, but I want them kind of soft and chewy. So depending on your oven, you may go a little less than that or a little more. So probably, around that 9-10 minute mark, I would check them to make sure. And you might want halfway through baking time, rotate your pan front to back so you get more even baking. So I'm going to say around 11, 12 minutes. So our oatmeal cookies are now done. I put my baking sheet on a wire rack. So you can see they're set around the edges, but they're still quite soft in the centers. So what I like to do is, I don't want to remove them from the baking sheet to finish cooling right away. I'm going to leave them like 3-4 minutes because they're quite soft and fragile, so I want them to firm up. And then just use your metal spatula to transfer them to the wire rack to finish cooling. So what I'm going to do, let those cool, bake the rest of my oatmeal cookies off, and then when we come back, we will make our vanilla cream filling. For our vanilla cream filling, again, if you're having a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment, or you can use a hand mixer. Now, this vanilla cream filling is it's really soft and creamy. It will remind you of a marshmallow cream, marshmallow fluff. So we need to use a couple different ingredients. One, we're going to use 1/4 cup, 55 grams of vegetable shortening, because that's going to help us give a really nice soft and fluffy filling. Now, if you don't want to use vegetable shortening or you can't find it, you could just use butter instead. And I'm also going to use 1/4 cup, 55 grams of butter. Have your butter at room temperature. So, like I said, if you don't want to use the vegetable shortening, then just use like 1/2 cup, 113 grams of butter. So what I'm going to do is just beat these together on medium speed just until they're nice and smooth. that down. And then, because marshmallow has a vanilla flavor, I am going to add a healthy dose of vanilla, 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of pure vanilla extract. And then for sugar, I'm adding 1 cup, 120 grams of confectioner's sugar. You may know that as powdered or icing sugar. And I did, once I measured it out, I did sift my sugar to get rid of any lumps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the mixer on slow speed, a low speed, to mix that all in because you don't want that sugar coming up. And then once it's all mixed together, I'm going to increase the speed to medium high, and I'm going to beat this, 2-3 minutes. I want to get some air in there. I want to get nice and light and fluffy. So, it's nice and soft, fluffy. So we have one last ingredient, and what I'm going to do is slowly drizzle in with the mixer on low speed, 1/4 cup, which is about 95 grams of light corn syrup, and that's really going to give our filling that kind of marshmallow cream type of texture and flavor. So, you don't want to use corn syrup, can't find it. You could use golden syrup, but really to get that texture, you could use agave, you could use a brown rice syrup, or you could probably even use honey because it has that same kind of texture as like corn syrup. Now, when I'm ever measuring out something really sticky, I take my measuring cup and then I either lightly oil the inside of my measuring cup or even just spray it with one of those non-stick sprays. And that way, that corn syrup doesn't stick to the glass, so it's a little easier to get it out. So I'm just going to slowly drizzle this in, and then I'm going to continue to beat for a couple minutes until it's nice and light and fluffy. Okay, so we are done. Scrape that out, and I will show you. Okay. So this is what you're looking for. It's nice and thick to spread. Now, if you have a little problem, it's a little too thin, you could add a little more sugar. Too thick, you could add a little cream, but that's what we're looking for. So now, whenever you're doing a sandwich cookie, what you want to kind of do, because it's really hard to make every cookie the perfect size. So you try to match up. So these two are kind of, about the same. So, and then, you can put as much or as little filling as you want. I'm going to use about a tablespoon, which is my ice cream scoop here. But feel free to use more or less. And you know what? The other thing is, this is a good oatmeal cookie just on its own. If you don't want to fill it, that's fine. Just eat them as is. So then I just do that, and then I'm spread it out. I know it's spreading it right to the edge because when you put the two cookies together, it kind of squishes. So, and there we have our oatmeal cream cookie. Some people call it oatmeal whoopie pie, or I've also heard them called oatmeal cream pies. So you can call it whatever you want. So I'm going to eat one. If you like, oatmeal cookies, this just is a better oatmeal cookie. It's soft and chewy. The edges are a little crunchy, but the center is nice and soft. So you get that, and they're sweet, but not overly sweet. And then, of course, you have that. It's like a marshmallow filling, really. So that, in the combination with your oatmeal cookie, is, to me, perfect. So these will keep several days, and you should try them. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyBaking.com.